We're putting these phones head to head against each other in the Pixel 7 Pro versus the iPhone 14 Pro comparison. Of course, we'll touch on all the key points, including design, performance, screen, cameras, battery life, and more. So with that, let's jump into the iPhone 14 Pro versus the Pixel 7 Pro. If you're looking to get one of the best phones available right now, chances are you'll have the Pixel 7 Pro and the iPhone 14 Pro on your list of options. Now, they're both premium high-end handsets with the latest and greatest hardware coming from their respective manufacturers. And because Apple has the distinct advantage of having two different sizes of Pro model phone, we chose to go with their least expensive to keep the cost similar, and didn't just go by sheer size alone, because we all know size doesn't always matter. Let's put the operating systems aside and take a look at two extremely impressive pieces of hardware head to head. When it comes to design, both phones heavily borrow their design cues from their respective predecessors, the Pixel 6 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro. But that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Apple has stuck to their sharp edges, frosted glass back, signature camera bump, and their flat-edged ceramic shield display. On the other side, Google has chosen to update their much more symmetrical camera bar with a full metal design. They've moved away from two-tone glass backs to a single shade, top and bottom design, while the glass is still a curved Corning Gorilla Glass Victus panel. I'm not overly a fan of curved displays. It does make it harder when you are wanting to apply a screen protector, and I'd love to see more phone manufacturers build flat glass Pro models. But that's just my personal opinion. Take it or leave it. As design honors go, I need to at least mention that the Pixel 7 Pro camera bar across the back does make it sit flat on a table, while many others, iPhone included, have a bit of a lopsided camera bump that doesn't really allow it to sit flat on a table. When it comes to the iPhone, you get one more color than you do with the Pixel 7. I really like the look of this beautiful deep purple iPhone. It also comes in space black, silver, and gold, while the Pixel 7 Pro comes in obsidian black, snow white, and hazel. 4 versus 3. It might also be worth noting that the Pixel 7 Pro could be the better option if you're looking for a higher quality viewing experience. The panel isn't only larger, but it also has a much higher resolution of 1440 by 3120, while the iPhone 14 Pro sports an 1179 by 255/6 resolution. You might argue that it's because of the size of the screen that makes the difference, but the PPI, the pixels per inch, is also much higher on the Pixel 7 Pro at 512 PPI versus the iPhone 14 Pro display of 460 PPI. That's where things start to change though, because with the iPhone, the 2000 nit peak brightness, which is best in class, versus the Pixel 7's max of 1500 nits, as well as the flat display and more variance in colors, just set the iPhone apart that tiny little bit for me. And when you include the extremely nifty new Dynamic Island, Apple is doing a lot to give users a unique and modern experience. But design and pixel density don't really matter if the phone can't perform. Moving on to performance. So when it comes to speed and efficiency, it's not really fair to just look at benchmarks or raw power, because there aren't really any processors that come close to the A16 Bionic in terms of sheer performance. With the exception though of the recently announced Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which will start showing up in some phones in 2023. In a race between the tortoise and the hare, Google plays the role of tortoise, but it doesn't really seem overly bothered with competing in that way. Instead, Google has taken a play from Apple and their closed ecosystem. The Google Tensor G2 is custom built to enhance Google's vision for Android, specifically on the AI front. Computational photography smashes its rivals out of the park, while the chip also powers real-time on-device voice dictation and clear calling noise suppression, just to name a few. And if you'd like to check out the best Pixel-only features, we've got a great explainer video linked below. As for security, Google has gone with the M2 versus Apple, who has the Secure Enclave, which is dedicated security subsystem inside of the A16 Bionic SoC. Both of these will help you keep your hardware secure, but what they can't do is exactly what Incogni, today's sponsor of this video, can do. Whether you use an Apple or Google phone, most of us use services like Google or Facebook on a daily basis. And while we can get these services for free, there's always a price to pay. Data is a commodity in the internet age, and data brokers are making money off of internet users' personal information. They buy and sell personal data such as social security numbers, age, name, gender, phone number, email addresses, interests, physical addresses, and more. Data brokers will collect data on you from anywhere that they can, from public records, apps, and even services that you log into. And the worst part is, they do this without informed consent. Every time that you accept cookies, download an app, or even just visit your favorite website, data brokers harvest your personal information. That's where Incogni comes in. Incogni is a data removal service created by Surfshark that removes users' personal information from dozens of databases. In a way, Incogni is your broker working on your behalf to take back your identity. You can take back your personal data today by signing up for Incogni, linked below. And while you're down there, make sure that you hit the subscribe button, maybe tap the bell icon to get notified, and smash the thumbs up button just for good measure. Moving on to the most important part of a phone for daily use, battery life. If you're looking at just plain old size, the Pixel 7 Pro has the iPhone 14 Pro beat with its massive 5,000 mAh battery, which dwarfs the iPhone 14 Pro's 3,200 mAh battery. But when it comes to what we expect to get out of these batteries, our reviewer Ryan Haynes noted that the iPhone 14 Pro was a letdown when it came to pure battery life. Where Apple usually managed to get a lot out of a small battery, this one didn't hit the mark. The iPhone 14 Pro managed to get a full day of use with around 20% remaining at the end of the day, where the Pixel 7 Pro, on the other hand, was able to pull off a day and a half of regular use on a single charge. Easy enough, Pixel wins the battery section, right? Well, not so fast. Both phones can get you around 50% battery within half an hour of charge, but then things get hazy with actual charge rates. Apple manages to get up to 27 watts of peak charge, and this charge rate continues using USB power delivery, while the Pixel 7 Pro varies drastically, anywhere between 17 to 24 watts max with power delivery PPS 30-watt charger. Overall, the Pixel lags behind, getting to a full charge within 90 to 100 minutes, while the iPhone continues to chug along at a much more consistent rate, getting to a full charge in around 80 minutes. A 10 to 20 minute head start might not seem like much, although it could be in some cases. But when you factor in the difference between these phones in overall battery performance, a day and a half for the Pixel versus nearly a full day for the iPhone, you can be the judge there. Now for the cameras, honestly, it's close. I mean, really close. It's nearly getting into the Canon versus Nikon argument that has existed in the camera community for years. Both camera systems are capable of helping you create lasting memories, stunning images, and beautiful artistic moments. So as far as which pictures are better, that's something more subjective, and you'll have to decide that for yourself. But when it comes to the raw hardware side of things, there are definitely upsides and downsides to both the Pixel 7 Pro and the iPhone 14 Pro. Okay, so if you're a budding TikTok star, Instagram influencer, or just wanting to make the most out of your selfie camera, sure, Google leans on the Pixel's stunning computational photography, while the iPhone, which also has its own computational photography by the way, has the better specs and more versatile selfie cam for both photo and video. The Pixel 7 Pro has a 10.8 megapixel f2.2 aperture, 21mm ultra-wide camera, while the iPhone 14 Pro has slightly less wide and definitely more pixels, 12 megapixels to be exact, with an f1.1 aperture lens at 23mm wide. Pixel 7 Pro only offers a limited number of video settings, 30 or 60 frames per second at both 4K and 1080p resolution, while the iPhone 14 Pro offers HDR, cinematic mode, SL3D sensor for portrait depth and biometrics, as well as video in 4K cinematic 24 frames a second, 25, 30, or 60 frames a second. And when you go into 1080p, you can get up to 120 frames per second, which means that you'll be able to set your phone up and choreograph some super cool slow motion video shots straight from the selfie cam. So that's the selfie cam, but when it comes to the main camera, the Pixel has a significant edge. As you can see here, the iPhone only offers one camera with a larger 48 megapixel sensor, while giving you dual 12 megapixel secondary cameras for your telephoto and your ultra wide. While the Pixel 7 Pro gives you a massive 50 megapixel main, a 48 megapixel telephoto, which is not only more pixel dense, it's also a longer telephoto lens by a long shot. The iPhone's 77mm telephoto versus the 120mm of the Pixel is a telephoto powerhouse. And it doesn't stop there, folks. Even though both phones have nearly identical 12 megapixel ultra-wide cameras on the back, the Pixel outdoes the ultraness of the iPhone's ultra-wide camera by 6 degrees at 126 degrees versus the iPhone's 13mm 120 degree field of view. But with all of that said, Google has the edge in the physical tools that you'll have at your fingertips to take photos with, even if it's only a game of mere millimeters. But you want to know which phone you should buy. This is, after all, a versus. Both of these phones have their advantages, as you can see here. So with our advantage list in hand, it really comes down to just sheer preference. If you're looking for longer battery life, an Android experience, and the other advantages that we listed, choose the Pixel. As someone who has used nothing but an Android phone for the past decade or longer, even though I do use a MacBook Pro for work, I take no great joy in saying that the iPhone 14 Pro was really refreshing to use and it has its benefits. These are truly two absolutely balanced devices. But there's still the obvious. The Google Pixel 7 Pro is larger, it has better screen resolution, bigger and longer lasting battery life, and all of that, and it's $100 less than the iPhone. If having a larger phone for less is appealing to you, the Pixel 7 right here is the right choice. But if you still want a smaller form factor and the Pro model, it's all iPhone. And it's just something that Google doesn't offer right now. But with that being said, what do you think? If the iPhone hardware specs were running on Android OS, would that be enough to draw you in? Are you Team Pixel, or are you looking to join the dynamic island life? Let us know in the comments down below. But until next time, guys, I'm Ryan from Authority Media. Be kind, and we'll see you in the next one.